NASCAR heads to the streets of Chicago. Most drivers are looking forward to it. You'll hear from them, while other reporters continue to rip this race to shreds. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Happy 4th of July, folks. We've got a full show for you today. You'll hear from drivers. We'll react to maybe the most butthurt news article I've ever read. We'll also talk deep dish pizza because this is a Chicago-focused episode. Last year's Chicago street race was a huge deal. Despite the weather delays, the rain-shortened race, all the historic rainfall, most fans went home happy, seeing Shane Van Gisbergen put on an incredible performance to get his first Cup Series win in his first start. It was historic, pulled in a great TV number, and now it's back for year 2, a hopefully far less soggy year 2. In fact, if we look at the weather as of today, July 4th, this is according to the National Weather Service, there is a chance of rain on Sunday for sure, but nothing like we experienced last year. Gosh. Having flashbacks. As you can tell, hopefully by my energy level, I'm very excited about Chicago this weekend. I asked several drivers last weekend at Nashville if they too are excited about racing in the Windy City, and we received some mixed responses. For one, Bubba Wallace, who finished 31st here a year ago and is currently the first driver outside of the playoffs, he did not sound too confident when asked about Chicago.
It's about like Sonoma. The favorite part about it is the turn leaving the racetrack. The worst part about it is the turn into the racetrack.
Meanwhile, rookie Carson Hocevar sees this weekend as an opportunity. When I talked to him last week, he mentioned that he'd made a ton of laps in the sim around Chicago going back to last year, so he's excited to finally get to use them.
I was jealous. I didn't get to go run it last year. Obviously going into it, I don't think everybody had a lot of high expectations of being a really great product, right? When things first come out, you only hear the negative, not the positives of every change ever. But the second those cars are on racetrack, it's super cool and fun to watch and super unique and interesting. And, I did a lot of prep actually, just doing sim work for any Cup guy I could at that time. So I felt like I had a lot of laps and never got to go race it. So it'd be a lot of fun to go give it a shot and learn how to street race of all things. It was weird getting in the sim. When I've done all the sim work last year, they didn't have any of the buildings scanned or anything. It was just completely bare. So when I loaded in, it was weird looking at skyscrapers going down a straightaway. So it'll be interesting for sure.
Hocevar has some work to do after getting docked 25 points for intentionally spinning Harrison Burton out under caution last weekend. Hocevar is now 50 points behind Josh Berry in the Rookie of the Year fight, and of course Carson needs a win if he hopes to sneak into the playoffs. But ending on a more positive note, Chase Elliott, finished 3rd in the Chicago street race a year ago, says the mood is completely different heading there for year 2.
I was super happy with the whole thing last year. I was really skeptical going in, just that it was going to be really tight and really narrow and there wasn't going to be a lot of options, but layout was great. There was plenty of chances to pass, even more chances to pass than some of the other road courses that we go to. So I thought it was really well done. I was pleasantly surprised.
It's safe to say driver expectations are mixed, and I think it's safe to say the opinions of local Chicago residents are also mixed. Adam Stern shared this article yesterday, so it sort of made the rounds across NASCAR social media. But a guy named Jim O'Donnell, writing for the Daily Herald out of Chicago, compared the Chicago street race to having a Chuck E. Cheese at the Art Institute Museum. This was one of the most snarky, snide, cynical, shallow, butthurt articles I think I've ever read from a supposedly reputable source. Mr. O'Donnell here called the Chicago street race the Tour de Farce. He called all the drivers Bubbas and the fans General Lees and Booty Barkers. He routinely cracked jokes about the sport's southeastern roots. I don't have any formal journalism training, but this sounded less like a real news article and more like a passionate rant or blog post lazily written by someone who clearly has blinders on and rarely steps outside of their carefully curated bubble. It's a terrible piece, not one that I suggest we take too seriously, but it does highlight the uphill battle NASCAR routinely faces, especially when they venture out into these newer markets. From the outside looking in, it certainly appears that NASCAR's relationship with the city of Chicago is a bit tense. Building a racetrack in Grant Park on 4th of July weekend is extremely disruptive, although according to reports, it's been less disruptive this year. A few months ago, the mayor of Chicago reportedly struck a deal with NASCAR that would require NASCAR to pay an additional $2 million to help with unforeseen additional costs. And there continue to be rumors that Chicago is close to announcing an official F1 date, which would likely overshadow and or replace the NASCAR street race weekend. And as of last week, the city of Chicago told the media that they have not yet made a decision on the 2025 NASCAR weekend. So this is a huge weekend for NASCAR and the stock car street racing concept. NASCAR proved last year that they can adapt and overcome awful weather conditions. This is the year that NASCAR shows us what a street race really looks like. This is the year they prove that bringing the product to millions of people is an effective business strategy. As great as the occasional Iowa or North Wilkesboro is, there is logic to wanting to bring the sport closer to large populations of people. Look, I get that some NASCAR fans feel the sport should stick to its roots, stick to the southeastern United States. That's a fair opinion, but if NASCAR were to do that, they would have to accept that the entire business is going to contract even further. And they don't want to do that. NASCAR wants to stay big. They want to continue to appeal to massive nationwide corporate sponsors. To do that, they need to expand their audience, and a race in the center of the third largest city in the United States is a great opportunity to do that. The Chicago street race this weekend has the potential to show millions of Americans that stock car racing is so much more than just the shake and bake that Talladega Nights made it out to be. So tying this back to that mean-spirited, misleading Jim O'Donnell article, that is an example, albeit an extreme example, of a widely shared public opinion that NASCAR is desperately trying to change. NASCAR has fans on both coasts, north, south, across the world, and is perhaps the most versatile major racing series in the world, capable of racing anywhere, almost any time. A race like Chicago shows that to all the naysayers. Last year, in the face of bad weather, the race itself was a win. But this year, with hopefully better weather, full festivities and concerts, hopefully this year, the entire event, especially from a marketing standpoint, can be a win. That's what NASCAR is hoping for. That's the perspective I'm viewing this from. If nothing else, hopefully this race will continue to educate people who don't know anything about stock car racing. Like, I think Adam Stern tweeted this out. This is from an Auto Week article a couple weeks ago, but Julie Geist, who is the president of the Chicago Street Race, had this wild quote recently. When talking about last year, she said, quote, "I got questions about the possibility of cars hitting buildings because people didn't know about the barriers and fencing systems. Now they understand, they have the information, and they know that they can text me anything. They've become advocates." That is a wild but great example of how just NASCAR being in a city center like this educates more people on what stock car racing is really about, and who knows, could potentially turn more of them, as Julie Guy says, into advocates, maybe even fans of NASCAR. That's why they're doing this. I hope this year's event is a huge success. I'm excited to go to Chicago this weekend. Fans, if you're headed out to Chicago, you might want to hear from an expert where you should go and what you should do. I like food. I'm sure most of you out there like food. Chicago has a lot of food. This is a first on my channel, but let's talk to an actual Chicago-based, born and raised food reviewer. We're going full Chicago in this episode. I'm now joined by Amin from Chicago Food Guide. NASCAR is racing in the heart of your city, Chicago, Grant Park specifically. The best thing about being there last year was, and really what I'm looking forward to this year, was all the great food options so close to the track, just outside of the gate. So my first question for you, Amin, what's your go-to either food or restaurant kind of near where the track is set up this weekend?
There's some really nice places, depending on whether you want something more fancy or something more casual. Literally anywhere you go to in Chicago is going to have good pizza. Just stay away from Domino's. Other than that, you're going to have some really good pizza options. That's my always go-to whenever I'm going anywhere. But there's some nice restaurants right on Michigan Avenue. Combination of fast food, right? And also pizza, and then some really fine dining. There's a nice French restaurant right next to the track called Vento that I'm really into. It's such a beautiful place. And there's another place called The Exchange.
Okay.
Where they have an atrium that makes it look like you're just in a whole other world. and the food is just next level.
You mentioned this a moment ago. Everyone knows Chicago style pizza, Chicago dog, the classics, the staples. But what's something that fans traveling to Chicago maybe should consider trying out that they otherwise might not think of?
I'm a really big sweets guy. That's something that I don't know if I told you. I started this page about 5 years ago reviewing food.
Yeah.
And I've gained 80 pounds since I started this page. So trust me, I know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of great ice cream spots, right? Like Jenny's is a really good one. They're really big.
I've tried that one. Yeah, they're great.
Do you remember what you got when you got one over there?
I think I got, it was like a cookie butter cake, maybe.
Gooey butter cake.
Gooey butter cake. Yeah, that was delicious.
That's my go-to one. You made the right decision.
So I can endorse that pick.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
No
Well,
doubt.
yeah, and you mentioned because I have you here, and you're the Chicago food guy. You said you love Chicago style pizza or all type of pizza, perhaps besides Domino's. Do you consider Chicago style pizza, or are you like, nah, it is good, but it's something else? What's the verdict from Amin?
So there's two styles that are pretty well debated. The number one, when you're coming to Chicago and you're a tourist, the first thing you think of is what? What would you say?
Probably Giordano's.
Yeah, and what style of pizza?
I guess deep dish.
Deep dish, right? That's not Chicago style pizza. Chicagoans do not eat deep dish pizza. However,
The rumors are
it's kind
true.
of an interesting thing for tourists to try because it is technically a Chicago style pizza. But if you're from Chicago, you very rarely have deep dish pizza. That's not super common.
That's
You
what-
eat
that's what
what's
I've heard.
called tavern style pizza.
Oh, okay.
I would say a couple of really good ones. There's one called Phil's Pizza. They're located in the Pilsen area. There's one called Vito and Nick's. That's a really good one. And then also Palermo's Pizza. There's one on 63rd and 95th in the suburbs. So my top three when it comes to the tavern style, real Chicago style pizza, in no way or order. So I'm not going to say number one.
Yeah.
But definitely Vito and Nick's is good. Phil's Pizza is good, and also Palermo. If you're gonna do deep dish, kind of, Giordano's is right next to the track. It's right on Michigan Avenue. So is Gino's East. It's a great place. But Pequod's is in Lincoln Park, and they have an amazing caramelized crust. So definitely give them a try. No
Awesome.
judgment if you do deep dish.
I love that. Well, appreciate it. I mean, a lot of fans are going to be heading into Chicago this weekend. Lots of great food options for sure. Appreciate you stopping by and sharing some of your expert insight. Good to talk to you, man.
No doubt, man. We'll see you.
I can't wait. It's going to be a great time. Now, if you're interested in a deep statistical dive into the best road course racers, you can click right up here. Greg from wintherace.info stopped by earlier today. We talked all the numbers. Be sure to check that out if you're interested. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more NASCAR content every single day. And a huge thank you to my very generous Patreon supporters. Couldn't keep this show growing without you guys. Been a very busy week. Still more to come. Hope you have a wonderful 4th of July. I will talk to you again soon.